Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a little bit more of a serious topic, to go back to some of the complications. If you haven't seen my previous videos, I do talk about some of the complications in my pregnancy that I have experienced so far. Today I want to talk to you about the possibility that one of my twin girls has Down syndrome. Now, one of the reasons I'm doing this video is because when we first found out that this might be the case, we were extremely overwhelmed with the information presented by the doctors, but what we really wanted to hear was from other people that might have gone through the same thing. So I scoured the internet and I did read a lot of blogs and pregnancy posts on boards and things like that, but I think I really could have used a video like this at that time, so I just wanted to share my experiences in case that it helped anyone else that might be going through something similar. I also want to start the video by saying that I know that this topic can be a little controversial. So the decisions that my husband and I made about how we would proceed are in no way meant to reflect different decisions that different couples might have made in the same situation. I'm just sharing my story and my experiences as we went through it and kind of what we did about it. But if you chose to do something different, or you know someone that did something different, this is no way a criticism or a judgment on anyone else, just like I would expect no one to criticize or judge me for the decisions we made that are personal to us in terms of how we're going to handle the pregnancy. So the first time we heard that Down syndrome was a possibility for one of our girls was at our 12-week scan. At that time, they did what's called a nuchal translucency test. Translucency test? I believe that's right. An NT scan, which they measure the fluid that is behind the baby's neck. And at the time, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't educated about this test at all. I didn't even know they were doing it. It was my first appointment with my OB because I had been transferred from a fertility clinic. We did do IVF. And so we weren't really sure what to expect. So when the doctor came in and told us that one of the girls had a thick NT measurement, we didn't really understand what that meant at the time. She had to go over it with us. The information that she gave was definitely helpful, but also overwhelming and scary, and especially for a couple who really hadn't bothered to look into or check the type of testing that they would do at the 12-week scan, completely caught us off guard. So forgive me, but I don't remember the exact measurement. I didn't write it down at the time. I believe we were a 5.1, a 5.2, something like that. And I think, again, not 100% sure, that they want you to be under a 2 or a 2.5. That's what they would consider normal in terms of the measurement at that gestation. So as a comparison, our other girl was measuring a 1, I think a 1 or a 1.1. So there was a significant difference in the measurements of the nuchal translucency between the two babies. So the doctor did explain that this high measurement could be anything. It could indicate any type of chromosomal abnormality. There really was no way to definitively indicate which abnormality or chromosomal issue we were experiencing unless we did a more invasive test. Now, my husband and I have tried for a very long time to get pregnant. We did experience an early miscarriage last summer. This pregnancy was exceptionally special to us, so we were a little bit wary of any invasive testing just because it does come with a risk of miscarriage. Now, the risk of miscarriage is very, very low. I think it's something like 1%. For an amniocentesis. At the time, the doctor was recommending this test to determine which of the chromosomal abnormalities we might be looking at. So again, my husband and I weren't comfortable with the risk that it entailed, especially because we were having twins. To perform an amniocentesis meant that you would have to get 2 needles because they would test both the babies, which does double the risk of miscarriage versus a singleton pregnancy because they only have to stick the needle in once. So basically an amniocentesis is when they do stick a needle into your belly to retrieve some of the amniotic fluid, and that's what they test. Also, because we had tried so hard to get pregnant and we had experienced a loss, the risk was too scary for us to undertake, so we opted not to do any invasive testing, which means that we won't know, and we don't know definitively one way or other whether or not our baby girl has Down syndrome. As an alternative, the doctor did offer what's called the Harmony 21 test, which is a blood test. So we did opt for this because it was non-invasive and it isn't 100%, and they don't consider it a diagnostic test, but they do kind of look at the odds. They give you like a percentage-based odds on having a certain abnormality. So I think it's trisomy 21, 13, and 18 that they're checking for, which are the most common of the chromosomal abnormalities you can have if the NT scan shows a high number. So when we got the results back from Harmony 21, it did indicate we had a high risk for Down syndrome and not for a very low risk for trisomy 13 and 18, which at the time was a huge relief for us. Downs, in comparison to 13 or trisomy 13 or 18, didn't seem like as big of a deal. And for those of you who aren't familiar with those other trisomies, they can be fatal. They can be fatal in utero, or babies can be born and die very shortly thereafter. So that was a real possibility for us, and we were very scared that that might be the case for our baby girl. So learning that it was Down syndrome in comparison to a potential loss it was a huge relief for us. Not to say that the news wasn't intimidating or scary. We don't know what to expect. We've been trying to educate ourselves, and like I said, we won't know 100% whether or not our daughter actually does have Downs until she's born. So they did send us to a genetic counselor for further information, and basically at that appointment they went over in like extreme detail some issues that you can experience if your baby has Down syndrome and some of the common defects or challenges that they might face either in utero or once they're born. Again, they did recommend having an amniocentesis done because they wanted to confirm 100% one way or another whether our baby had Downs. But again, we just reminded them that that wasn't what we just weren't interested in doing the invasive test because of the risk of miscarriage and because we knew that it wouldn't change our mind. Ultimately, if it was going to be a deciding factor on whether or not to proceed with the pregnancy, we would have gone forward with it. But because we knew that no matter what that test said, we were going to proceed with this pregnancy, there was no point in risking a miscarriage if it wasn't going to change our outcome or our course of action. So after that appointment, the doctors just kind of decided that we were going to proceed medically as if baby A has Down syndrome, and that way we're prepared no matter what for when she's born. So that's involved a lot of like more testing just to check on certain defects that are more common in children with Down syndrome, and tests like looking at her heart. So we've had a fetal echo done, and during that test they did discover a very minor heart defect. Basically her aorta is going the opposite direction than what is normal in a normal development. So the doctor assured me that this is like a very minor problem. It usually doesn't even present any long-term effects, but if it does and they need to fix it, it's a day surgery procedure. Like, it's not a big deal at all. So given that the heart defects can be much more serious and sometimes require open heart surgery very early in life, learning that the defect that our baby girl has is so minimal and most likely won't even require surgery was great news. And in all of our subsequent scans, they haven't detected any other defects that might be common to Down syndrome. They've looked very much in detail at her intestinal system and her kidneys and various other things, and they haven't seen anything else that might pose a problem. So we're very lucky in that regard. They've also looked at the fluid around her. Sometimes if there is a chromosomal abnormality, babies can have extra amniotic fluid around them, but in our case she has normal levels of fluid, very similar to that of her sister, so she's not showing any problems in that regard. So now it's just kind of a wait and see. We will see when she's born if she does indeed have Down syndrome. Again, to us it doesn't matter if she does. We have been trying to educate ourselves. We do realize that there'll be some extra challenges and it'll definitely be different, but that we love her no matter what, and it's just a gift. She's a gift no matter what both of them are, and we're just so lucky to be having twin girls and so excited to like welcome them into this world. You know, although scary at the prospect of having a child with Down syndrome, because I don't know many and I don't know what to expect in terms of how life will go. Everything else that we've had to deal with, the early miscarriage, the incompetent cervix issues, coming very close to losing these babies at 20 weeks has really put that fear in perspective. What once seemed like the biggest deal, we were so concerned about these potential issues, has really taken a back seat. And we just feel so blessed to have made it to 31 weeks with these girls, and we'll just see what happens, and we'll keep you posted, and when the girls are born we will know one way or another, and I will let you know one way or another. Anyway guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope this video helped at least one of you out there, and if it did, it served its purpose. If you have any questions or would like to know any more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can message in the comments below. I love to hear from you, and I will see you in my next video.